I have 3 sensual obsession fragrances that are inspired by Rose Parfum, so stay tuned. Hey, what's going on? Hunter here and welcome back to my channel. And if you are new, what I do is I make fragrance related content. So if you love fragrances, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and also be sure to follow my fragrance Instagram page, but that is correct. Today we're going to be talking about 3 from the house of Scentual Obsessions, which if you are familiar with this house, they do make inspired by or clone fragrances of some higher end niche stuff. And they have a huge lineup of fragrances, probably one of the biggest that I've seen from an inspired by house by far. And they are also probably the first house that I've come across that actually make clones of other fragrances back towards the beginning of my fragrance journey, probably around 2 years ago or so. I'm telling you right now, they make some great stuff. Now, the 3 that I do have in hand, the first one is Scentual Obsessions Heaven, as you can see from the label on the side, which is an inspired by version of Rose Parfum's Elysium Parfum Cologne. The second one I have is Pinnacle, which is an inspired by version of Rose Parfum's Apex, which is one of the newest fragrances from Rose. And then the last one is Florida Ways, which is an inspired by version of Oceania, which, by the way, I have all 3 of the Rose Parfum bottles right here as well, as you can see. I am very familiar with the originals with Oceania, which I recently just got in, of course, Apex, and one of my favorites of all time, the beautiful Elysium. So we will be talking about how they compare to the originals in this video. I do want to mention that these 3 fragrances were sent out by Kevin Holt, who is actually the owner of Scentual Obsessions and the perfumer behind all the fragrances as well. So shout out to Kevin. And I actually want to say thank you to Kevin too, because he's actually been supporting my YouTube channel since the beginning. He used to comment on my YouTube channels like 2 years ago. So yeah, he's been a big support for me and I believe a bunch of other YouTube creators as well. So he is such a great guy and runs a phenomenal company. And also congratulations to Kevin as well, because he's opening his first Scentual Obsession store in Florida this week. And so that is a huge accomplishment, man. Hoping all goes well for you. And if anyone's in the Florida area, definitely check out his shop. Now, Kevin did hook you guys up and supported me with a discount code of 10% where you can actually use Hunter10 for an additional 10% off your entire order. It is a limited time code that I think will only run for maybe a week at the time of this upload. So if you are interested in some of Kevin's fragrances, definitely be sure to use that code and get some additional savings. Now, I do want to go over some information really quick, of course, with these fragrances. He does have like a bronze line, a silver line, and then a gold line, which these ones come in, which is a little bit more of their higher end line, and they do have some great bottles, but we'll look at the presentation in a moment. But I do want to go over prices for these and the bottle sizes. Now, they do come in 15 ml, 30 ml, which I have in hand, and a 50 ml. I do think the prices change slightly between the fragrances, but most of the time it will run you like 23 to 25 bucks for a 15 ml, 35 to 40 for a 30 ml, and $60 for a 50 ml. So those prices are absolutely insane for the kind of quality, the performance, and everything with these fragrances. So I highly recommend checking them out if you're on a budget and you want to smell amazing. I also want to show off his brand new sample pack. If you don't want to just splurge on a full bottle, but you want to test some fragrances from the entire house, you can do that and then pick your favorites and then buy a bottle of that, because he has upgraded his sample pack, which is, by the way, phenomenal quality. You can get 6 5 ml samples of your choice from the variety of fragrances he has on his catalog, on his website, which, by the way, I will link down below. But let's take a look at this, how they come beautifully stacked in there snugly. And by the way, these decants, I have to show you this because this stuff is so high quality. A thick glass with a phenomenal sprayer, a nice kind of label right there showing you which fragrance it is. And like I said, these are 5 ml, so they are hefty. You can get a couple full wearings out of these samples, so definitely check these out as well. Now, take a look at the boxes that the 30 ml gold line comes in. They do come in like a small kind of cardboard box, but they do look phenomenal. It just kind of has your size. These are Parfum extraits, so highest concentration of fragrance oils, which is nice. Handcrafted in Florida, USA, which is a nice touch, and of course the Scentual Obsessions logo on top. Now, taking a look at the bottles, guys, these bottles look phenomenal. They're much higher upgrade from its older bottles, because take a look at these. Of course, you have the sticker right there. You actually have a sticker on the side of the fragrance that you have, which that is nice that it's right there as well, so you can kind of see which fragrance you actually have in your hand. On the top is a nice kind of a cap with a mirror reflection logo right there. But when you look down on it, you can actually see that gold atomizer around. It kind of looks like a crystal, which I just love. These are plastic, but They do hold on pretty snugly so you can't pick it up by the cap with confidence. And then of course you have a very nice golden atomizer. Just all in all looks high quality, and hats off to Kevin for doing such a great job with these bottles. So when I got these 3 fragrances in, it was by a surprise. I did not know what he was sending out. I didn't pick which fragrances I wanted, and I didn't look up the names or anything like that. So when I saw like, okay, Heaven, I don't know what that is, but I will tell you, when I got these in, I immediately sprayed them on skin and sprayed them on test strips to see what they were. And 2 of them came straight to mind, and I knew exactly what these were cloning. The other one, not so much, but we'll talk about that. The first one we're gonna go over is Pinnacle, which is of course an inspired by version of Roja Parfum's Apex, like I said. Now let's spray this one and test out the atomizer really quick. Very nice atomizer. That sprays a lot of juice, which I love. You guys know I love a good atomizer, and that one is very solid. So immediately this smells identical to Apex, and when I say identical, I mean literally identical. Right when I sprayed this, when I first got it, it put a huge smile on my face. I was like, wow, how is it that close to Apex? And at the time, I didn't even know of any other clones or inspired by versions of Apex, because Apex was so new. So Kevin did this in a fairly quick time, and he did it phenomenally. Of course, if you are familiar with the Apex DNA, it's a very green, smoky, earthy, cheaper fragrance. Has a ton of cypress. It's extremely ultra masculine as well. And the performance with Apex is incredible. Probably the best performing Roja from the Parfum Cologne line. But man, this one is also a beast mode fragrance, and it's actually the darkest juice color from the 3 I got. As you can see, that nice kind of yellowish dark juice, which I love a dark juice color. It may just be my imagination, but when I see a darker colored juice, I always think it performed better, which isn't the case obviously, but that just plays tricks in my head. This one though is a beast mode fragrance. And obviously Roja Parfum's Apex retails for I think over $300, so you can basically get a 30 ml bottle with my discount code for around like 35 bucks or so, or even cheaper, which is an absolute steal. If you love the Apex DNA, but you don't want to pay that money for it, you literally cannot go wrong with Pinnacle. I'm telling you that right now. Just absolutely blown away by this fragrance, and this is one of the fragrances that just completely blown away with what Kevin did with Pinnacle, man. I just honestly am in shock how close this is to the original Apex. So the next one we're going to talk about is Florida Waves. Now, obviously this is inspired by Oceania by Roja Parfums, which by the way, I just got this bottle in not too long before this one came in, so I am still fairly new to the scent DNA. I haven't even did a full review of Oceania yet, and I've only worn it maybe a select few times. But just like Apex or Pinnacle, I knew exactly what this was cloning right off the bat. Let's also spray this one as well. Beautiful atomizers as always. I got on my legs a little bit because I'm wearing shorts, but I guess I'll be smelling like Oceania because this is exactly what that smells like. So with Oceania, I have to admit, I had a love-hate relationship with that scent DNA. I love the opening, not a huge fan of the mid, and I love the dry down of it. Now I say that because in the mid of Oceania, I get a burst, like in your face, of a ton of white florals. Not my favorite thing about the fragrance, even though that fragrance is extremely complex. It goes through 3 different stages throughout the life of it. It's like 3 different fragrances in one. Now with Florida Waves, you still get that very citrus, bright opening of mandarin, very orange. But what I actually like about this version of Oceania, it doesn't go in the direction of white florals as heavy as the original, which is right on my alley. So it might even be safe to say that I prefer Florida Waves over the original Oceania, just because of that aspect alone, and it captures all the great things that I like about the original, all in this bottle of Florida Waves. So whenever I'm feeling that kind of Oceania vibe, when it's like the ocean breeze, very citrusy, fresh, clean, I might be reaching for this one more than the original Oceania bottle, which is just crazy. Now for the performance of Florida Waves, I have to say it's not as strong as Oceania. It still is an extrait de parfum, which is, it is highly concentrated, of course. It lasts about the same length as the original Oceania, which I did not have a problem with, just because of those white florals just clinging to my skin and just full force in my face that made it last a long time. But this one, about the same performance, I would say about average, maybe almost above average from my testing. No complaints whatsoever, man, especially at the prices. Yet again, incredible value for your money. So last but not necessarily least is Heaven. So Now this is the fragrance that when I first got it in and sprayed it, nothing rang a bell in my head of what this was cloning, which is a shocker because it is cloning Elysium, which I do own a bottle of, and I'm the most familiar with Elysium out of the 3 roses I have here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's spray this one as well. Pretty much same atomizer going on, of course. There we go. Spray Heaven, which by the way is an awesome name. And I definitely think Elysium deserves the Heaven name. This is pretty much what Heaven would smell like to me when I think of a fragrance. But this fragrance, let's see if this smells similar to Elysium. All right, so off the bat, this is not a bad smelling fragrance by any means. It actually smells phenomenal. It smells extremely crowd pleasing, extremely citrusy, extremely clean. It also has kind of like a sweetness to the fragrance as well. But I have to say this is not really smell like Elysium. There is some similarities, but I wouldn't necessarily say this in the extreme clone of Elysium by any means. Now, I did tell Kevin that actually after I got these in, I was like, the Pinnacle and Florida Waves, I cannot believe how close you got those to the original, but Heaven, it just didn't ring a bell to me that it was cloning Elysium until I actually looked it up on their website and what it actually was cloning. But right away, I did really like this fragrance. I'll definitely be wearing this during like the spring, summertime, which is definitely more suitable for. But there's something so magical and special about Elysium that it's just so hard to actually clone and capture it. I smelled a couple clones of Elysium trying to get their version of it, and it just does not do the trick. Like I said, I talked about Elysium so many times. My favorite fragrance from the house of Roja, and I own I think 7 of them. It's just so hard to clone this stuff because it's so complex. Like I said, one of the most complex, if not the most complex fragrance that is a freshie that I've ever smelled. And yeah, it's made by a master perfumer as well, Roja Dove himself. But at the end of the day, if you do like fragrances similar to Elysium, you'll absolutely love Heaven. And what's nice about it, it's not redundant to Elysium either. I can definitely see wearing both of these for pretty much the same occasions, but just smell different. Yeah, you still do get that grapefruit. You still do get the citruses, the saltiness to the fragrance as well, especially as it dries down. Just not that similar. I would probably say if I had to rate it how similar it is to the original Elysium, I'd give it maybe a 5 because it is in that same DNA. Now I know Kevin has updated like previous fragrances to make them even closer to the original, so maybe he'll do that with Heaven, like a Heaven 2.0 or something like that. Which he doesn't have to, of course, but yeah, it's just not that similar to the original on the opening, the dry down, or the mid. And I've tested them side by side a few times. But all in all 3 great fragrances, fantastic quality, fantastic performance. And that's another thing too, Heaven does perform good as well. Pretty much about the same as Florida Waves as far as longevity goes, about average to above average. But that's gonna do it for my overview of all 3 Scentual Obsessions. Let me know down below if you checked out this clone house, if you tried any of these 3 and what are your thoughts, and I highly recommend giving them a look. I'll leave their link down below and make sure to use code HUNTER10 because it won't run for that long just to get you some extra savings. So leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch all you in the next upload. Take care, everybody.